Would never guess what bourbon could possibly be in this box.
Nor by our wardrobes.
Yeah.
I've never had any of this.
If this is the example of his art, maybe he should have gone back to the science.
It still seems weird to when you have too much whiskey. I'm probably going to want to get another pour of this.
So,
are you done yet?
No, there are many.
All right. Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. It's happy hour somewhere, so it's time again for Drinking Dusties, where we open up old bottles of whiskey, mostly bourbon, not always, and find out whether they are blow our minds or whether maybe it wasn't worth going out to those Dusties in the first place. I'm Steve Russell.
I'm Charles Cox, and I would say usually it is worth going to, even if it's just for the history lesson.
Absolutely.
But you're going to get a little history lesson on the show, just a bit.
But we do try to be honest with you about this stuff, right?
We are definitely honest.
Unfortunately, nobody's paying us.
But you can, you can support us on Patreon.
Right.
If you would like to support us, get a little donation to justify our existence.
A little donation gets you a little bottle, possibly. We draw from our Patreon supporters.
One viewer at random for every episode, and we send this out so you can enjoy it together with us. Well, after we enjoy it, but enjoy the same bottle.
Little pull off the bottles that
we get to drink the same stuff we do.
Yep. And also make sure to mash that subscribe button, please.
Right there. Mash, Bill.
Okay.
Because that doesn't cost you anything,
right.
But it helps us immeasurably should we ever get to the point where we can monetize this bad habit.
And looks like we have a little kind of a box of mystery back again. It's
a very mysterious box. You would never guess what bourbon could possibly be in this box.
Nor by our wardrobes.
Yeah, exactly. The trick here is it actually isn't a bourbon.
Yeah, right. So, all right. So pick your entry point to what you want to do.
There's a few things we're going to talk about here. So first we'll reveal. So there are, as you can count, 1, 2, 3, 4 roses on this box.
What could that possibly mean?
What could this possibly be? But of course, 4 roses, and that is our sub-in mystery box for the one that Chad lost. Thank you, Chad. Anyway, so 4 roses does not say bourbon on it.
No, why?
Because 4 roses, when this came out, and this bottle is from 1986.
86,
you can see the bottom, 86 in the molding.
Does have the help
but the label basically didn't change from the 60s. Yeah. It's definitely a 60s type.
Yeah, for real.
Which tells you something right there. If they didn't even update the labeling from the 60s into the 80s, then this was not a high priority for their parent company.
So why was it in a box, by the way?
Yeah, that's because it was, they had to try to do anything. This was a bourbon glut, right? 86 was still very much in the bourbon glut. They're trying to do anything to make it feel fancy to convince people to buy it. Unfortunately, the real decision that Seagram's, their parent company, should have made to make people buy it is to put better stuff in the bottle.
Right.
But maybe not. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe it'll be great. We don't know yet.
I've never had any of this.
So 4 Roses, a lot of people know nowadays, is a very buzzed about brand. There's the yellow. This is the classic yellow label. This is their regular. So you notice similarities, but this is bourbon. That is not. That is blended American whiskey, which I'll get into in a moment. And then there's also their small batch, which has a similar label, but small batch. And then there's also their small batch select. And there's also their single barrel.
Yes,
Steve. And there's also the single barrel strength. So
are you done yet?
No, there are many others. They have limited editions, all sorts of things. 4 Roses does a lot of stuff with their whiskey now. So we're not going to drink all of these today, or we would not do
this segment.
We would not do anything else today.
Right.
Which one would you like to have, other than the Dusty?
Jeez.
But
here's the thing. I feel like if we were trying to do a fair fight, it would be this one because it's also 80 proof.
Do you want a fair fight?
I do not want a fair fight.
Do you want the one that we broke the cork off of?
That would be a pain in the butt right now.
So we'll take that one away. We'll take away the fair fight. All right.
And as long as I've eliminated it being a fair fight, I think maybe the small batch select.
You want to drink that one? Okay.
Are you recommending this one instead?
No.
Small batch select.
They're all good. I mean, 4 Roses now is good. And anything I fear will taste good by comparison.
Yeah, that's what I hear too.
Let's talk a little bit about. Well, you can pour this nice one. Don't drink it yet, but pour it while I talk a little bit about 4 Roses history. So 4 Roses got its name from a corsage by legend, according to legend. So we don't know exactly whether this story is attributed to the founder of the company, the distillery, Paul Jones Jr., or his nephew, Lawrence Laval Jones, who was his successor. But apparently, a lot of people say Lawrence. So apparently Lawrence was in love with a woman named Mary Peabody. She was a beautiful woman in Columbus, Georgia. All the men were courting her. Lawrence fell in love at first sight. He kept courting her. She said over 5 years. He was very persistent. She kept saying no.
She was 16 by that point.
Back in those days, probably. I mean, to be fair, she said no several times over 5 years, and he still persisted. So that's definitely stalking by, today's standards. But back in the day, he did give her an ultimatum. He said, I'll one more time, and then you'll never see me again. Okay. He gave her a dozen roses with a card proposing. He said, either marry me or you'll never see me again. Okay. The answer was apparently yes. And so what she was supposed to do was wear a corsage of roses at the dance that night, and then he would know. And she did. Okay. And
tie a yellow ribbon round the
hill. So that's the happy legend. I'm sure the real story was different. Anyway, but the real story was 1888. Four Roses was born in Atlanta. Paul Jones then moved the business to Kentucky a few years later, and Four Roses became an international success as a Kentucky straight bourbon. Okay. Jones family were rectifiers. They didn't actually distill it themselves. They bought up from others, blended, whatever, and made their own batches and sold it. When Paul Jones passed away, that was 1895, his nephews, Lawrence, who we mentioned, and Saunders, kept the family going. Then the 18th Amendment was passed in 1919, and in 1922, Lawrence managed to get with a newly created Frankfurt Distilling Company, he got a license to distill medicinal whiskeys. When it was repealed in 1933, Four Roses took off. By 1938, they were advertising in Times Square. Fun fact, you can actually, if you know the famous photo from VJ Day when we defeated the Japanese of the sailor kissing the nurse in Times Square. If you look in the background, you can see a Four Roses ad. Yeah, so it's actually in that photo, which we will undoubtedly find and put on screen while I'm saying that. But during World War II, Lawrence Jones had died. Okay. The company was sold to Samuel Brofman, who was the owner of Seagram's and Sons. Seagram's, huge liquor conglomerate, did a lot of amazing things, did a lot of bad things too.
Especially post-war.
Yeah, and Four Roses is sort of the pinnacle of their bad things that they did. So he bought Frankfurt Distilling Corporation for $42 million in 1943. Okay. He bought 4 other distilleries at the same time in the 1940s. So the Old Louis Hunter Distillery, the Athertonville Distillery, the Henry McKenna Distillery, and the Old Prentice Distillery. Okay. So the bourbons that ended up coming out of Old Prentice were Old Baker, Old Prentice, Benchmark, Eagle Rare, and Four Roses. Okay. So pretty good company, right? They're making some good bourbons there. Sales were exploding, but Seagram's made a lot. This was also going into the bourbon glut. Right. They made a lot of decisions that really diminished the quality. So they would have long-term consequences. Four Roses was soon converted into an American blended whiskey to try to save some money. To be fair, Brofman and Seagram's, they were Canadian distillers, and Canadian whiskeys were actually way more popular down here then. And in Canada, it was blends that really sold. So he thought that's what they should be doing down here. There's a famous quote from Brofman where he famously said, "Distilling is a science, blending is an art." If this is the example of his art, maybe he should have gone back to the science. But back then they made blends in different grades. So based on the ratio of straight whiskey to the neutral grain whiskey, right? Unfortunately, he discovered that under American rules, the Canadian rules were stricter, and Scotch, where this originated, the rules were stricter. In America, there weren't a lot of rules for it at the time, so they could use even cheaper neutral grain spirit instead of grain whiskey in their U.S. made blends. They didn't at first. But then over time, to save money, they use these grain. So the differentiation, so grain spirits are grain neutral spirits that have been spent sometime in wood. For Seagram's, that was about 3 months. Not a lot of time aging in barrels. And so Seagram's was originally an A blend, which meant they got the highest grade of blend using a higher than average percentage of straight whiskey and grain spirits instead of neutral spirits. But then over time, to save money, but they shifted over to the neutral spirits. But weirdly, that was just in America. You'd think that in America you would want to have your highest grade whiskey because it's a more discerning consumer when it comes to people who are used to bourbon, etc. Nothing against our foreign consumers of bourbon, but they actually still sold high-end bourbon to the Japanese market as we got deeper into the glut. And here they were making it because light whiskey was more popular. They were making lighter blends that eventually got to the point where it hit the bare minimum, the legal minimum in U.S. for American blends, where only 20% of it was actual whiskey. 80% was basically vodka. So they're taking whiskey and mixing it with 80% vodka. In a lot of countries, you can't even legally call that whiskey, but here in the U.S., they let them do it.
I got a crazy question.
Yeah.
So bourbon glut. That means you have tons of bourbon and whiskey. So why are you cutting it down to a fifth of what you're putting out? I realize that they're also trying to cater to different evolving tastes at the time.
That's part of it.
But it still seems weird when you have too much whiskey.
It was definitely a short-term play rather than thinking about the long-term consequences of what they were doing. So yes, they were trying to cater to people who wanted a lighter beverage, and they were used, they thought, okay, Canadian whiskey has become so popular in the U.S. Clearly people want these lighter blends that don't have as strong flavors. They were also just trying to save money, right? They were hemorrhaging money, and by using a lot less of the expensive aged stuff and just mixing it with stuff right off the stills that was vodka, they could make their dollar go a lot further, which was great for the short term because they were putting cheaper stuff in the bottle. They could make a quick buck, but nobody wanted to buy those bottles again, unfortunately. So so Seagram, it was just so interesting to me that they were like Seagram products, especially Four Roses, were getting so popular in the Asian market at the time. You think they would have connected the dots and thought, oh, maybe we should do it here. But instead, Americans were getting blended shit. It was just horrible, horrible stuff. So as time passed, the Seagrams had cheapened this blend so much that people just stopped buying it. They stopped selling it in most states, and they eventually they were just focused on ones that bottles that actually had their name on the label. Right, Four Roses didn't say Seagrams on the label, so they didn't care as much about it. And it became, even for fans of blended whiskey, they thought it was rot gut.
Jeez, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, this is great. I'm really selling it well, right? By the end of the 90s, it was distributed in only a handful of states.
Right.
We should try the current.
But meanwhile, there was one that was still going overseas.
Right.
That was.
So the hope is that maybe this will be a little bit more like that. But let's try the current day. Right. Let's pause from the history for a moment and try the new one.
Huh.
That's good.
That's got a distinct profile.
Yeah. So it's really robust.
Yeah.
That's definitely not a blend.
Yeah, for reals. No, for real. But it's actually different even from a lot of Four Roses I've had recently. This particular one, this has a very distinct profile.
So you and I have talked lately about Four Roses
being confusing.
Well, being confusing, but also how there are a lot of really huge super fans of Four Roses, and I have to admit, I am not one of them. I've never been mad at the Four Roses I've had, but I've never sought it out that much.
Right there with you.
Which you would not guess based on the number of bottles that I had. But I wanted to do a vertical and taste them all side by side. And I thought, this is all good quality stuff, but I'm not a huge fan of it. But this bottle, it's a small batch select. This is really good.
That's really good.
We have two people to thank for this, or a group of people and a person. The group of people are the Japanese, specifically Kirin, the Japanese brewer, because they were the distributor of Four Roses in Japan, and they were sort of keeping that quality stuff coming in, finding consumers for it. The Japanese market was buying it, so they didn't stop making good bourbon. It was just in the background, right? And they were using it expressly for the Japanese market. Kirin recognized that. Around the same time, there was a guy named Jim Rutledge who had worked at Seagram's, moved back to Kentucky and was working at Four Roses, and he became distiller. He took over as distiller, and again kept that sort of fire going of like, we actually do know how to make great whiskey. We've got this history. It's just we're not finding people to buy it. So Kirin stepped in 2002 and bought Four Roses. They killed the blend. They went out and bought up as many bottles as they could find and destroyed them because they didn't want the brand to be associated with it.
Bury the evidence.
And at the time, and Jim Rutledge was actually making this base level yellow, they called it the yellow label bourbon. It was only in Kentucky, and it was very small sales, but he was keeping it alive just to have it. And so they allowed him to expand it. They slowly expanded and eventually, obviously, to 50 states. And now we've got this great selection of bottles now. But
it's 104 proof on this.
So we basically got the chance to drink what the Japanese had been drinking for decades. Kirin was actually so worried about the brand's bad reputation, they were reluctant to relaunch in the US. But then they realized nobody had any perception of Four Roses because people they'd stopped selling it. People people weren't even they didn't have any history with it at all. So an interesting side note about all of this mess. A positive that came out of the time with Seagram's, because Seagram's was making blends, they actually kept the yeast strains from all those different distilleries they bought and the different bourbon mash bills, because they need, for a blend, you need as many different inputs as possible to try to keep it consistent, right? So even though they were producing garbage for America, they were keeping alive this amazing history. So to this day, Four Roses has this reputation of having these different yeast strains and different mash bills, and so every bottle of their basic label is a combination of 10 different possibilities. It's confusing as hell. But each one of those yeast strains is the historic yeast from each of those distilleries. So any bottle of Four Roses you're drinking that history, right? Which is really cool. but like their single barrel expression by definition is just one recipe. The small batch that we're having the small batch select. So this is a mixture of 2 or sometimes a few more recipes. The standard expression contains all 10. And so by 2000, so think they basically didn't exist. And then they relaunched in 2012, slowly expanded, or 2002. By 2012, they won American Whiskey of the Year for Whiskey Advocate with their limited edition small batch, which is in addition to these.
Good. This is very good.
Yeah,
it's got like a lot of stuff that if it went a little bit further could mess it up. But it's it's tannic, but it's not too tannic. It's it's got a lot of wood in it. It's a little smoky.
A little bit, I would say. You know what's interesting? It doesn't have like a Scotch-like smoke quality to it, but it has sort of a robustness, like a campfire-y, but not over the top. I definitely get. I mean, it's such a full flavor. I love this bottle. I love this bottle.
Wow, I'm surprised.
So that's this one. So now what we're all right. So Jim Rutledge, he took over as master distiller actually a little further back in 1994, but it took him for several. He had the lobby to get it to put out their. Something just exploded outside. Yeah, probably don't want to know what it is. But so by 2002, they put it out.
It's time to drink that Dusty.
You sure you want to?
Not really, but go ahead.
We're gonna drink that Dusty. Here we go. All right, cracked it open. So this sold for less than $10.
Really?
Don't you want to know how much I got it for?
Yeah, I do.
I got this not at an auction or an estate sale or anything like that. A neighbor had sadly passed away, and you and I were on the road, and I was getting texts from neighbors saying, there's some bourbon down in this basement, and they sent me a picture. I was like, that's not bourbon.
Right.
But
I'll take it.
So I got this along with 4 other bottles, a total of 5 bottles for $20.
Right. I remember that.
So this bottle,
I forgot this was one of those bottles.
For $4. I'll take a flyer on something for $4.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but let's try it out.
Yeah. So
I would normally use a clean glass.
Yeah, whatever.
But I think it might be helped by having some real whiskey still left in this glass.
I've got a clean glass, so I'll give you guys
the unadulterated. You want some more?
No, I do not want any more.
All right. I drink in a Glencairn because I like the way it focuses the aromas, even on this one, to my nostrils so I can detect them.
And I drink out of my Glen Campbell because...
it doesn't smell bad. So, I notice I didn't say it smells great.
80 proof.
80 proof, barely.
Year is what?
1996.
96.
Oh, I'm sorry, 86.
1986. And it is how much neutral grain spirits?
This one's better than, as I mentioned, they went to 20% whiskey, 80% neutral grain spirits. This one actually identifies on the label 65% grain neutral spirits.
Wow.
So that means 35% whiskey.
Okay.
And it says it's Four Roses Distilling Company in Baltimore, Maryland, and Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Oh.
Notice there's no mention of Kentucky.
Huh.
No mention of Kentucky.
Huh.
Seagram's was using whatever plant was cheapest.
Yeah. Even though it does say Lawrenceburg,
Indiana.
Oh, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Different.
That's what you're saying. Oh.
Yeah. Ironically, for those of you who don't know why he's reacting that way, Four Roses is now based in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. That's where the distillery is. So,
all right.
It's almost a shame they use this beautiful, wasted this beautiful embossing on the back on this product. But who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised. I've just heard so many bad things about this era.
There's not much to smell there.
But it doesn't smell awful.
No, it doesn't smell awful, but it's just the
not
fact that
vomit in a glass.
Right, but neutral grain spirits doesn't smell like anything.
Right.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
When we talk about the yeast strains, fans of Four Roses know all their different yeast strains and mash bills, whatever. People who aren't fans may be a little confused by some of the different operations. But you have on, is it on this one, single barrel? So a lot of bottlings will have different letter codes of what the yeast strain is, what the different mash bills are. So to define them, like on this one, you see this single barrel that we were sampling the other day. It's got the designation OBSF. So that's the recipe. So what does that mean? So the E mash bill, if it has an E in it, contains a mixture of 75% corn, 20% rye, 5% malted barley. Okay. The B mash bill, which is the other one, is 60% corn, 35% rye, and 5% malted barley. So that one's much higher rye content. So those are the 2 mash bills, but then they're the yeast letters. What's cool about it, So if you don't drink it a lot, it can be terribly confusing.
Yeah,
but if you're a
be a little
fan,
intimidating.
if you're a fan of the brand, it really allows you to go deep into the flavor profile that you really like, which is cool. And they recently came out with a sampler set. With 10 different bottles, you can sort of taste them against each other. It's a really cool idea.
The letters on this one are WTF.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't tried it yet, though. We haven't tried it. We smelled it.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it time to?
Well, do you have
to drink this, Dusty?
Do you have any what was going on with this kind of thing?
I do. You want to talk about that first? Or do you want to drink it while
let's drink it?
Okay, let's drink it.
I'm probably going to want to get another pour of this.
I don't know. I gave you a pretty big pour. This is 1986.
I mean, it's not
No, but you know what this tastes exactly like? I recently had a bottle of the Seagram's VO from the 70s, 73, I think, with my whiskey group. Totally not bad, but nothing memorable about it. That's exactly what this is. I would put this in a cocktail where I didn't want any whiskey flavor at all.
Right. Did that VO have neutral grain spirits in it?
Yeah. Okay. This is a blend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can have a blend.
You're right. Sorry, but it's a Seagram's blend. So it's similar concept. I think that one had more whiskey in it, so it did have a little more heft to it. This is very watery. There's not a lot going on. There's nothing offensive in it.
There's nothing offensive in it at all, actually.
There was a weird note on the smell where I thought, ooh, is there going to be something funky in it? But I almost wish there was something funky to give it something more interesting. But
there's nothing offensive in it at all, actually. I'm actually a little bit surprised by that. If you wanted just to drink a bunch of whiskey and make a cocktail,
get 40% alcohol in your body. That's an easy way to get 40% alcohol in your body.
Throw some cherries into it.
So 1986. While you're enjoying the rest of your glass, because there's more there.
Thank you.
I made sure to pour you enough.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what was going on in 1986. So this was a disaster.
Yeah. What other disasters?
I'm glad you asked, Steve, because that was also the year of the Chernobyl meltdown and the Space Shuttle Challenger.
This was worse.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Just a joke.
Also, we bombed Libya.
Targets
Libya, so in retaliation for their terrorism. So there was a lot of that stuff going on. Also in politics, the Philippine Revolution happened. With, Ferdinand Marcos fled. Corazon Aquino became president. The Iran-Contra mess happened. President Reagan admitted that we'd been secretly selling arms to Iran.
I watched that on TV a lot.
Yeah, and luckily we never had any problems with Iran after that.
No, all cleared up.
We sold them weapons and they loved us ever since.
Up.
Yep. In Haiti, President Jean-Claude Duvalier had to flee the country because of the revolution there. In science, Halley's Comet made its closest approach to Earth in decades. Yeah, that was that year everybody was looking at. And sticking with space, because I know you love space, the Mir space station launched. The Soviet space station that lasted forever, it felt like. No longer in existence. First laptop computer was released by IBM, their PC convertible, they called it. Coincidentally, the first laptop virus, the brain virus, emerged that year. So in music, we were just talking about this yesterday. 86, Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer."
Yes.
Madonna's "Papa Don't Preach," and the Beastie Boys album "Licensed to Ill."
Nice.
Dropped. Yeah,
exactly. That's right.
Oprah Winfrey Show.
You do have to fight for your right to party.
You do. You got to seize that right and fight for it. All right, don't let it go. Oprah Winfrey Show debuted on TV.
Oh, wow.
The top movie, 1986. We were just talking about this. We were listening to some Kenny Loggins yesterday. Top Gun.
Right.
Overrated movie.
Yeah.
But
86.
But I do love Iceman. Here's to Val Kilmer.
Yeah, to Val.
This past year.
I'm your Huckleberry. I mean, I'm changing movies, but we are.
But you're also his Huckleberry.
Yeah.
That's good. So also Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, really?
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
This is a knife.
Yep. Platoon.
Yeah.
And Aliens. Mostly. Steve's favorite really obscure line from that movie.
One-word movie quotes.
It's a great movie.
It's a game we play sometimes. One-word movie quotes.
Both of our buddies, Jerry O'Connell's movie Stand By Me.
Hey!
Stand By Me came out.
Jerry O!
Yeah, exactly. Here's to you, Jerry. And Blue Velvet came out that year, too.
Oh, wow.
So,
a
lot of good movies that year.
Yeah, that's good.
Did I mention Platoon? Platoon that year.
You did mention Platoon,
In sports, Mike Tyson became the youngest ever heavyweight boxing champion.
Yeah.
God, he was powerful.
Yeah,
he was powerful.
Stay up and watch those fights on HBO.
And do you remember that year the Red Sox won the World Series?
No.
I'm a Red Sox fan. That year they very much did not win the World Series.
Very much. Maybe could have.
Poor Bill Buckner has always been blamed for that. Bill, it was not your fault.
Yeah.
It was not Bill Buckner's fault. It was Calvin Schiraldi and Bob Stanley and Joe Morgan and everybody else's fault.
Yep.
And Yeah. I still haven't gotten over it. At home I have a world, talking about things being shipped overseas, I have a Red Sox 1986 World Champions banner.
Nice.
Because they print all that stuff in advance,
right.
And then the team that loses, they just ship.
Right.
They
ship
destroy.
overseas.
They're supposed to destroy it, but some of it
Right.
they sell overseas. So I got that and have it on my wall just to taunt myself. And the Phantom of the Opera debuted in London's West End.
Which eventually became went in Broadway the longest running play on Broadway
of all time. Yeah. And just as enjoyable as this.
Right. Midnight and the bourbon is screaming.
Memories. This is it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No.
That's not saying much because we expected this to be the worst. I expected this to be the worst thing we've had.
When you add neutral grain spirits to something, basically what you are is just watering it down.
No, neutral grain spirits is vodka.
I know, but it doesn't have a lot.
It's taking the flavor out, but I expected a lot more burn.
Yeah.
No, I guess this is 80% vodka.
It's 80 proof.
Right. And it's 65% vodka.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing some of the I've got some of those, we had a couple of minis and stuff from, way before this, back in the 30s, whatever, and you'll see it's like 80%, neutral grain spirits and stuff. You're like, why'd you bother?
I think that Lincoln Inn was like that, right?
Was like that. Yeah. It's like, why bother?
This is better than the Lincoln Inn.
This is better than
not by a lot.
Yeah. No, not by a lot.
But so I would, all seriousness, if you are hunting Dusties and you see, be cautious with Four Roses. If it's a Japanese export, like when we were at Neat in Louisville, and that guy was having a birthday pour they had a bottle of Four Roses. I warned him, but then we saw the Japanese lettering on it. It was a Japanese export, and that was excellent.
Right. So when you see them in auctions, don't have a knee-jerk reaction against this era, because you got to just make sure whether it is a Japanese one or not. Then it's worth checking out.
But if you're in a situation like me and your neighbor calls because somebody's
you get this for $4.
Somebody has in their basement, they're having a garage sale. It was $4. Absolutely. For $4. This is our cheapest Dusty so far. $4.
Yeah, absolutely. Make some cocktails with it or something.
Yeah, we'll use it for something. I'll trick you into drinking. I'll put it in a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle and then give it. Just kidding. Just for the Van Winkles, we don't do that except as a prank.
All right. Well, again, interesting.
Interesting.
I mean, this has always been a question mark.
And it's moldy. You can see
on
the outside.
It's gross. This has always been a question mark, and it is a chapter in bourbon history that is important, and it's a part of the comeback story of Four Roses.
And let's not overlook the fact that both of us haven't been huge fans of Four Roses in terms of what they're doing now.
Then we drink that.
This is a great bottle. This is a great bottle. I can't remember what I paid for it, but I'll look it up and I'll put it on screen. But this was $4. Yeah. This was more than $4. Right. I'll put it on screen how much that was. But this was a great bottle. Yeah. So if you like us are kind of on the fence with Four Roses, I recommend this one. Maybe you'll branch out from there. Maybe not. Maybe you'll just stick with this one. This was a good bottle. That one was interesting.
Yep. All right, y'all.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Skull.
Keep it dusty.
Keep it dusty.